Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making these simple watercolor flowers. Dry on dry technique, really simple. So let's get started. So today we're making these cute watercolor, simple, easy flowers with the dry on dry technique. And we're gonna start with 3 colors. And I'm gonna use blue and just mix it in with water on my palette. The lighter you want it to be, the more water you can put in. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna do this deep pink. And the palette I'm using is the Mungyo palette. I will link that in the description. Just add a little more pink. And then I have a glass of dirty water to rinse, and then a glass of clean water, so I make sure not to contaminate my colors, and I'm going to use yellow. And we're just going to mix that there. Add a little water. And then we're just going to add the green for the stems. And this is Hooker's green. And I'm using a size 6 round Princeton Heritage brush, 40/50 collection. Okay, so we're all ready. Here we go. The paper that I'm using is the Arches 140 pound watercolor paper. So I'm gonna start with my center flower, and I'm gonna make that the pink. So I'm gonna ink up. I have paper towel to blot. And I'm going to put that one up just a little bit higher, and I'm going to start with the center flower. Now you can see this watercolor paper soaks up a lot of water. So make sure that you're pretty wet with your brush. I'm going to go with my blue color next. And I'm going to tilt that just a little bit. And maybe put it down just a little bit. And I'm trying to do as few strokes as possible. I'm just going to scoot that. I want the depth to be at the bottom, so I'm going to scoot that back. And remember, your petals don't have to be perfect. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I do like them to be more perfect, but it's better if you don't work the paint so much. Okay, so here's the yellow. And I know that the paper's pretty dry, so I'm not gonna dab that. I'm just gonna go ahead and paint. So it's a press and lift, press, lift, and then again, just kind of scooting that all the way to the middle. Now, while we're letting that dry, we wanna make sure it's good and dry before we add the other petals. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the stems. The stems, I'm going to be using a Princeton Heritage size 2 round brush. Make sure your brush is nice and wet, and hold down closer towards the bottom, and I rest my pinky on the paper when I do this, and I'm just going to hold on to the paper so it doesn't move, and then I'm just, with a very light touch, I'm just going to do a stem. And you can see it doesn't have to be perfect. Get it as close to the top without touching it as you can, because we don't want it to bleed in to that paint. There we go. And I'm gonna get some more paint on my brush because I want to make some stems. You can see this one's already dry because it was pretty, there wasn't a lot of paint on there. So I'm gonna go back to this one, and it's just a touch, press, lift, point, press, lift. And you can see this paper takes a lot of water. So make sure that you are plenty inked up with your paint. But I do really like the way that this paper soaks in the water and how it melts. So going to do that again. I'm going to start on this side just with that point, press, lift, point, press, lift, and let's do one right here, point, press, lift, and And I'm just gonna go over that one a little bit. I'm gonna add some water. All right. And then we're gonna go on to this one. I'm gonna start on this side this time, point, press, lift. I'm gonna go ahead and add some more water each time just because I am seeing that this brush is not quite taking as much water and paint. So we're gonna go about right here. Point, press, and lift. And again, pushing that paint towards the bottom just so we get a little depth there. And there we go. Now our other paint is dry, so we're gonna go back to our petals. Make sure I rinse that in the clean water. And when you tap your brushes off, you wanna make sure that you just tap them, don't poke them. That will ruin the tips. So we're gonna go back to the pink. I'm gonna ink this, put some more paint on my brush. I'm gonna make sure that I have a good amount of paint, and we're gonna go side to side. So we're gonna start at that same point. We're gonna do the same technique, point, press, lift, point, press, lift, and then we're just gonna push that paint down. Same on the other side, point, press, lift. We're gonna get some more paint on there. Point, press, lift, point, press, lift as you come around. And then I'm just really letting that paint soak in to the bottom. Okay, we're gonna go ahead, go to our blue. Again, getting plenty of paint on the brush. And we'll start on this side this time. I'm gonna go point, press, lift, point, press, lift, and just pushing that down to the center. Same thing on this side, point, press, lift, point, press, lift, pushing that down to the center. Okay, moving on to our yellow flower. We want to make sure that our paintbrush is good and clean so we don't have any contamination. We're going to ink up a lot with the yellow, and here we go. That point, press, lift, point, press, lift, and just fill that in. And ink up again. Point, press, lift, point, press, lift, and then we're just gonna fill in that space. Push down to the middle again. So when that dries, you can see you've got the shape of the petals in there, which makes a really nice look. When it dries, it will look like this. So you can see how the petals just kind of look like they're see-through almost. And if you want to do something fun with your flowers, let's just try this right here. I'll show you a really fun technique that I use. If I am not liking the way that my flowers look, or if I want another fun whimsical look, then I will just take a marker. This is a size 5, the Paper Studio fine line pen. And I'm just gonna go along, and I'm not making sure I'm perfect. That's the fun of it, because we're just being very whimsical. So I'm just kind of tracing where the leaves are. And like I said, I'm not being perfect. I'm just drawing whimsical lines. And I really have liked the style. I have another little idea right here. You can kind of see, I'll show you that one in just a minute. I can see that my flowers are still kind of wet, so I don't want to go into the flowers right away. But here's another one where I did that technique where it's all outlined, and I just love that technique. So we'll set that aside. We'll go ahead and see if my petals are good and dry. It's a little bit wet, but not too bad. So just gonna go there. Make sure those meet up. And I know my yellow is not dry yet, so I'm gonna wait on that. And again, not making perfect lines. That's the fun of it, is just kind of go out of the lines. Color out of the lines. So my yellow, I'm gonna kind of wait on that. And here we go. See how fun that is? Just a fun, quick technique. So come back and see me again soon. We're gonna do some wet on dry techniques in some of the following videos. And I'm gonna be doing a paper comparison with watercolor paper because I have found that some of them just work better than others, especially for beginning painters. So click on the button to subscribe and come back and see me again real soon.